Got any back issues of Anime? We opened the second episode with my preferred style of recap, no narration, and just showing a little bit of the end of the previous episode just so that it could flow nicely into the next. It ended with Mashiro asking Sora if she was some sort of hero, to which the gender-bent Deku had no answer just yet. More importantly though, she needed to question this girl's sanity when she was needlessly drawing attention to herself. Remember kids, real heroes always run away from the fuzz. We then cut over to Mashiro's home, or more specifically her grandmother's. Said granny was very welcoming, even as her granddaughter seemed to be having a slight mental breakdown. Well, when you put it like that... And they took my punchline from me. Also, that look on Ail's face. But yeah, by this point, Mashiro was already becoming the star of this episode, being the somewhat straight man to her new superheroine friend. Oh, and also, there was some weird orange bird with a comb over watching them, but I'm sure that's not going to become important later. Anyway, while both girls were unable to properly articulate their situation, Granny Yo-Yo, yes that's her name, was very accommodating. Lady, if you start pointing towards the heavens, I'm gonna start pointing towards the door. Moreover, there was the more pressing matter of getting Ale back to her parents, which Sora very nobly, and kind of sensibly, wanted to prioritize. That said, they also might have wanted to make sure the toddler had a full stomach before she was returned, and as it just so happened, Yo-Yo had all the stuff they needed to feed her, including a bottle and formula. Lady, just admit you tried to take advantage of the supply chain shortages and it didn't work out. Anyway, she offered to let Sora and Ale take one of the extra guest rooms until they could figure out a way back to Skyland. The former was of course very appreciative, but also didn't want to intrude on the two, and thus very selflessly offered to do the housework to make up for their stay. Little things like this, and the earlier bit of Sora trying to take Ale back as soon as possible, really helped sell me on this character. Sure, she's a little too straightforward even for a fish out of water, but she's far from an idiot, and in fact is very pragmatic by actively seeking ways of accomplishing her heroic duties whilst reducing inconveniences for those around her. Good stuff that also conveniently makes for the basis to some shipping when she offered to be Mashiro's personal knight, and in response she said that they should just start off as quote-unquote friends.
Hey! You two should kiss!
The next day, Sora partook in her first Japanese breakfast, which I guess would be different than anything she's had on Skyland. Though, I am surprised she even knows what a fish is, considering, again, Sky, Land, but whatever, hopefully this season will develop its magical kingdom a little more. Hey, as long as she's not saying delicious smile, I'm a-okay with this. Also, not too surprisingly, she didn't care for the umeboshi or pickled plum, which, yeah, I can attest is an acquired taste. Later, while Sora was washing the dishes, Yo-Yo was acting a little sus. Oh, not because she clearly knew more than she was letting on, including the name of the princess that Sora managed to guess correctly, but more so because she was clearly making some illegal stuff with these ingredients. Granted, they did need to worry more about that orc from the last episode named, what was it? We then got a very entertaining montage of our fish out of water lead being shocked by modern Japan, including stuff like phones, escalators, and robots. Okay, that one is at least a little justified. I mean, I know IRL, they are actually trying to make these things a little more commonplace, but I still don't trust them. You never know when Judgment Day is gonna happen, folks. But anyway, the two girls were there to do some clothes shopping. Well, you could always ask this girl for recommendations. Nah, instead, she let Mashiro coordinate her, and while they of course went with the advertised outfit, I did kind of prefer this tie and suspenders look. It's just a little more classy in my opinion. Later, Mashiro inquired why Sora was even trying to become a hero, to which Sora very vaguely recollected an incident where she ended up, I think, in the Spears Forest. Is it gonna turn out that Granny is actually the evil witch of this show? And yeah, unfortunately, we, the audience, didn't get to learn much more than we already did know, but to be fair, this was all news to Mashiro, including the origins of Sora's hero notebook that she had been keeping ever since that day for several years, and yeah, Sora's slightly dejected face here spoke volumes. Though on that note, Katsu Doom was having some lunch with the 5-finger discount, and he created a monster out of a vending machine that...
Too easy.
They were forced to run, which frustrated Sora, as she wanted to get into action sooner rather than later, otherwise she'd never be on the same level as her idol, that based on what she said the previous day, plus her trembling can, she still had a ways to go. Regardless, she transformed, and after some blatant shipping, seriously, y'all don't have to go full Utena just yet, we had a short, but decent fight this week. Obviously, it was nowhere near as good as the premiere, but it still had its fun moments, including Sora being more violent with a vending machine than even O's, and...
That's a penis!
Yeah, I'm willing to accept this kind of immature humor when it's not being too blatant, and at least led to an awesome finish. After the fight, Mashiro took her to the Pre-Holic, which for whatever reason hadn't been evacuated during a monster attack. Well, whatever, it led to a nice moment where, after subtly hinting at it in the last episode, Mashiro decided to buy one of the shop's notebooks, though not for herself like she originally intended, but instead for Sora.
Yes, and you can buy it right now for the low price of how much for a freaking notebook?
Yeah, kind of rightfully, Sora tried to turn her down at first, but accepted it after Mashiro said that she was buying it for her quote-unquote hero, ending the episode in a way that I'm sure makes a lot of Yuri fans very happy. Also, before the ending sequence, Sora mentioned that a different Precure would appear during this closer every week. Now, of course, that could and likely will refer to her teammates eventually, but considering that Prism won't debut next week, maybe we'll get the Happiness Charge cameo treatment, but on the opposite end of the episode. We'll see.
This was a nice follow-up to the last episode, being a bit more of a character-driven episode.
Obviously, it just wasn't going to be the Sakuga Fest like the first episode, now that the show has its audience, but it did make up for it just through the pure charm of Mashiro and Sora's budding friendship.
The former certainly became a standout for me, as I do really enjoy dry humor, and her cute, yet deadpan delivery really had me laughing throughout.
While I was perfectly fine with Mashiro not getting too much attention as there was already a lot going on in that first episode, the second episode more than made up for it. Mashiro is a somewhat justifiable nervous wreck to every insane thing going on around her after this girl from the sky threw her life into chaos. And yet, she still tries to be accommodating to Sora's needs as they continue to build her admiration for the blue lead. A nice subtle hint of this was her trying to burp ale just like Sora did. It's both good storytelling and character building between these two, with her slowly becoming Sora's sidekick before becoming her full-on partner. It's also a nice way of distinguishing them from Nagisa and Honoka, in spite of the obvious parallels like with the granny who clearly knows a lot more than she's letting on. All of that said, Sora certainly wasn't slacking either, as she remained very proactive even while stuck in a foreign land. Just little touches like her offering to help around the house really helped to sell her as an incredibly amiable lead that you'd understand why Mashiro is starting to sim for her. Granted, I do kind of wish they fleshed out her backstory just a little more. I mean, yeah, I understand them wanting to hold back on certain aspects, but at the same time, it doesn't make too much contextual sense for her to not give Mashiro at least a few more details. Still, that's a bit more of a minor complaint, and I do appreciate them holding back on the crude humor. Again, when it's subtle like this, I don't mind it, and hell, maybe it wasn't even on purpose, though I kind of doubt it. Added some interesting hints at later developments, and overall, a solid follow-up with Mashiro slowly becoming my personal spirit animal. Good luck to you, girl, on trying to make sense of all of this.
Work on the overview for Delicious Party is going well, so hopefully we should have something out in the next 2 weeks or so.
It's actually been refreshing to express all of my opinions of the previous season, especially when compared to this one. And needless to say, it's kind of a night and day thing, especially considering how one show doesn't have something that really annoys the hell out of me.
Look forward to it, and until then though, farewell for now, my friends, and hey dude, did you make sure you put in the right amount?